it always sounds, when you hear Darren Dreger talk about you guys, when you hear Elliot talk about you guys, there's a glamour to it. But it's not that glamorous, is it?
No, it's not. You're not there, when there's those calls late at night or whether it's from a player or a family. It's a lot different than most could imagine. And I know it sounds like it is, but there's the trials and tribulations. There's the anxiety from players you got to control, and there's a lot of ups and downs, and even at night thinking about it. And even in Mitch's deal, I wanted that to go to free agency and do the whole dog and pony show. He didn't want to do it, but I was all set to do it, and but we didn't end up. We ended up getting a result that he's happy with.
Well, now that you brought it up, we can
Yeah.
ask it. Uh, how do you? I mean, this was a noisy year for Mitch Marner and for you.
Well,
How, how
one
did you
part
manage? How
people,
did you
yeah.
manage that?
Well, one part people don't always see is the toll the social media, mainstream coverage can take on a player and their family. Mitch went through years of that. At the end of every season, instead of being able to breathe and reset, and his family were bracing for the storm. The negativity, the blame, the hate, it was just directed at him and spilled over to other people closest to him. That creates a dangerous environment. And there were even times where, police had to be involved. Through it all, Mitch showed incredible strength. But at the end of the day, he's more than a hockey player. He's a son, a brother, and now a new father, to a young boy. And protecting that side of him has always been just as important as negotiating the contracts. When it comes time to make a decision about his future, it wasn't about chasing the last dollar. He had opportunities to make more money elsewhere, but what mattered to him was finding a place he could focus on playing the game he loves. Where his family could feel safe and where he had a real chance to compete for a Stanley Cup. He heard directly from other players about Vegas and how they treat the players and their families too. And once he knew that, his mind was made up at the end of the season. And from my perspective as an agent, I would have preferred him to go through the full process, sit down with multiple teams, and explore every option. But for him, it was clear he didn't want to go through that, as I said, dog and pony show and go to free agency when he already knew where he wanted to be. Safety for his family and being in the right environment mattered most. And my job at that point simply was to support his decision and help him get there. At the end of the day, his focus now is entirely on what's ahead, and he believes Vegas is the right place for him, and his energies is on helping that team win. So,
are you able to put a percentage, if you could, on how much of a factor the noise and the environment in Toronto played in this?
I think it accumulated over the years. This wasn't something that was just new. This was going way back and then going through the Babcock fiasco. And there were other things that are not public. I'm not going to bring out. And it was it just constant negativity and misinformation in the public. And then, and you can't blame the fans. They react to what they hear. And sometimes it's misinformation. And, we really couldn't go out and attack every message that was out there that was incorrect, and you just give those people credibility. So, and it just creates a bigger storm. So, it was difficult. It was difficult to manage. It was difficult to get through. The wrong messages I think were out there, especially on social media. It was an attack. Even myself personally, like you get death threats. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't believe the kind of visceral hate there was out there at some point. It was always at the end of the season.
Was there a point during the season that you knew he wasn't going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf again?
Well, I think once, that conversation about the possible trade with Carolina, he did not want to leave. His wife was pregnant. Had that not been the case, maybe he would have done something. But I think at that point, he was set on still having consideration for Toronto, but he just wanted to go through the right thought process and wanted to help Toronto try to win while he was there.
Mhm.
That was important to him.
But just the fact that that whole thing became so public, Darren. I mean, they were on the road, Colorado and Vegas, if I recall,
Yeah.
and it came out that the club had gone to you and to Mitch.
Yeah.
Just the fact that this was public, I mean, doesn't that speak volumes to where this thing was?
Yeah, that's I think added to the frustration, and then probably made it even worse. And it didn't go down as everybody thinks it went down. I mean, it wasn't like there was a deal there. It was one that was being talked about, and whether the leak came out of Toronto or came out of Florida, I was infuriated at both clubs. It was unfortunate, but we had to deal with that at that time, and it's just constant distraction.
Why Vegas? And how did that become the number one destination for Mitch? Because you don't have any other Vegas clients, right?
No. I don't personally. Phil LeCavier does, that works with me, and he has a player there. But I know Mitch, in all his travels and through the Four Nations, players he's playing with, all the players talk. Players always talk about where, how teams treat you, and they talk amongst themselves. And I remember when Kent left our organization at Cortex and decided to take the GM job, he even said to me, he said, Darren, I'm going to make it a place where players, and he understood it coming from the agent side, because you're always having that conversation with the client. And he said, I want players, even when they leave, to have a positive experience in Montreal. That they say to other players, hey, you got to play here. And not just the player, but the families.
You're talking about Kent Hughes, who's
Yes. Yeah.
moved from the agency business
Yes.
to become the general manager in Montreal. And
Yeah.
obviously, he's done a pretty good job.
Oh, yeah, but he's an astute general manager. Let me tell you, he's going to do he's already done really well. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with. So,
what would your relationship and Mitch's relationship be with Brad Treliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs now?
Yeah, it's still cordial. I've known Brad quite a while. He's a good man. He's he's got a tough job in front of him, and Toronto's not an easy organization to work in with all the noise on the outside. But he seems to weather it. But yeah, everything's fine between us. We were talking about a free agent that I have currently that's still out there. Just recently acquired. And we had a discussion, and we continue to. I mean, it's business as as usual.
How would you characterize Mitch's current state now compared to maybe a year ago at this time or 6 months ago at this time, as he prepares for his first season in Vegas?
I think one, he's relieved. He's excited. I see a reborn Mitch. I think he's going to explode there without this outside pressure. I think he's going to do fine. He's back to the old Mitch, and that's the great thing. And the family's in a better mental state. I think totally, both him and the family. I think he's going to really succeed where he's going.
Do you believe the accusations of tampering occurred?
No, that didn't happen. That's nonsense. We actually explored being able to speak to teams, prior to that July 1. Brad wasn't against me speaking to teams. I even wanted to see if we could meet with the teams prior to that July 1, but it's not permitted in the league unless you're talking about a trade. So we couldn't do that. We thought we could go down that path, but that couldn't happen. So that kind of restricted even Toronto from getting an opportunity to try to to do something, because if once the reason I wanted him to go through that whole process is to see what was out there and then make an educated decision. But the rules don't permit that. So